Good evening. I'm quite tired. I'm not in the mood to be making a video, but I have to make a video because there's been some updates. This is the BBC News website today. At least it is on my device. We've got Steve Rodhouse now at the National Crime Agency. Misconduct claims against VIP abuse inquiry officer dropped. Steve Rodhouse was in charge of Operation Midland, which involved Coal Beach and complainants A and B. It was originally being run by Detective Chief Inspector Paul Settle. And Paul Settle didn't believe Coal Beach, and he didn't believe complainants A and B. I've seen a video put up by Ben Fellows of DCI Paul Settle interviewing Ben Fellows in his home. I have a reasonable belief that complainants A and B would be Andrew Ash and Ben Fellows. People who were corroborating Coal Beach's lies about public figures. There was an inquiry done into Operation Midland about 10 years ago by Sir Richard Henriques. It's available online. He was very scathing of the police operation. And he recommended that some of the officers in Operation Midland be investigated for criminal conduct. He also recommended that complainants A and B should face the same consequences as Coal Beach and be investigated for an attempt to pervert the course of justice. Anyway, nothing's really happened for 10 years, it seems. Something that should have been dealt with within a few months. And I'm still wondering why complainants A and B haven't been investigated and charged with perverting the course of justice. Because without them, Operation Midland would never have happened. Because they corroborated Coal Beach's lies. And the police needed corroboration for them to proceed with it. I'm kind of hoping, touch wood, fingers crossed, that the reason complainants A and B haven't been investigated and charged with perverting the course of justice is because somehow the police needed to get this matter with Steve Rodhouse done and dusted first. I won't hold my breath, but I'm hoping to hear about an investigation into complainants A and B. Anyway, like I said, timing. It's always very telling. Today, I've had a response from professional standards at the Met Police because I made a complaint about Brian Harvey constantly threatening me and others, threatening to stab me and others, threatening that if we ever got into a courtroom, he'd have me followed from the court, put into the boot of a car and made to disappear. And while the police run all over the country, run around arresting people for social media posts, praying and preaching in public, they don't seem to mind former pop stars threatening to stab me and other people on the internet, despite the fact It's encouraging others to behave in the same sort of fashion. And we seem to have some sort of knife crime epidemic in this country. You think they would have jumped all over it, but no. For some reason, they're not going anywhere near Brian Harvey. Anyway, this is about John Wedger, this part, in my response from professional standards. This is a complete fiction that they've got from Crime Stoppers here. And this is what happens when you speak to people and they record what you've said incorrectly. Their version of what you said becomes the truth. Despite you going back and going, no, I never said that. Anyway, it says there are also concerns of a John Wedger that claims to be a former detective. Whilst I was experiencing death threats from Harvey dating back to as far as December 2013, Wedger was a serving police officer and he ignored all reports and tried to make the reports a dead-end investigation. Well, if you know me, I'm not going to John Wedger to report Brian Harvey for anything, am I? Seeing as John Wedger went and picked Brian Harvey up from his home. And John Wedger is a good mate of Bill Maloney's. More on that later. Anyway, PC Garner at Professional Standards says, I can confirm Detective Constable John Wedger was a Metropolitan Police officer and has since retired. I have searched the relevant police systems between 2013 and the date of the officer's retirement, which she doesn't give, in relation to both you and John Wedger, and have not been able to find any material reports relating to you both. I have used Google to search John Wedger and have seen social media posts and YouTube videos where he discusses a similar theme to you with regards corruption, paedophiles, etc. And can only assume you have either met him at an organised event in the past or you have had contact with him over social media. As I have previously mentioned, I have asked you to provide further context to this matter, but you have failed to do so. I won't go into the ins and outs of why I failed to do so on this occasion. But John Wedger, who I never mentioned in this complaint, my complaint was about the police and their failure to arrest and charge Brian Harvey with threats to life, threats to kidnap and attempt to pervert the course of justice if we ever went into a courtroom. That was my complaint. I'm not sure why PC Garner is going off on tangents, unnecessary tangents. But it's interesting, isn't it? She's actually confirms that John Wedger was a police detective for the Metropolitan Police. So it brings me back to a question I asked a long time ago. Why was an acting serving police detective in child protection picking Brian Harvey up from his home? Of course, as we all know, John Wedger took him to meet Bill Maloney, and Bill Maloney and Brian Harvey went off to interview Andrew Ash, who may well be complainant A or complainant B. Somebody making up stories about child abuse. Of course, it also begs the question as to how John Wedger, a former police detective with the Met Police, is spreading satanic ritual abuse conspiracies online while being platformed and promoted by the BBC, and he gets involved with Wilfred Wong, a man who with a gang of other people conspired and kidnapped at knife point an 8-year-old child with plans and preparations to traffic that child abroad. Of course, this is all to do with Operation Midland. Anyway, I'll leave it there. But the police have finally confirmed John Wedger was a detective constable. After I don't know how many years. Not difficult, is it? Oh, don't forget to like and subscribe and all that nonsense.